But one of the things that I encourage in all of my coaching is data, because data will dispel fear.
For anyone who's been listening to the show, you guys know that the name of the game this year has been talking to agents who have consistently grown their business even through challenging markets. And I mean, right now, where I'm standing, the market is looking pretty good. We finally have some inventory coming back. Although rates have not gone all the way to the bottom, they have stabilized for the most part, and they're at healthy rates. There's a lot of positive things happening. So I wanted to bring an agent on today who has 25 years of experience and who's doing over $100 million per year. That's like a pinky to the mouth number. It's huge, but she knows her stuff. So Tori Ellens, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
So we always start with the same thing. We like to keep it consistent. I want to know how you got into the business in the first place and kind of like what your hero origin story was. Did you start out day one, 25 years ago, doing 100 million a year, or did that take some time?
So I started out 25 years ago. It definitely took time. The whole first transaction that I did was $40,000 in the history.
In commission? Just kidding.
A sales price. So the sales price was $40,000. I started my business in Tucson, Arizona, where the market was a lot different than the Phoenix metro area that I work in now and specialize in. But I started into real estate simply because I was at a place, I was still young, and the law field had always been something I was very interested in, the legal field, wanted to be a lawyer. Life had other plans for that. I had children young. And as I researched more of what real estate brought to the table, I was intrigued with the aspects of being able to do something that's, a big decision, a heavy decision for most people, even investors. It's still their money. And I felt that I could do it better, meaning I could focus on the client and not focus on the income aspect of it. And a friend of my dad's was in real estate many years. His father owned a brokerage and had known me well. And he said, Tori, you'd be really good in real estate. So I really did dive into exploring why I felt that would be a good fit, and was absolutely thrilled by the challenges it would bring, by the ability to master the legal side of it and really protect clients through knowing my craft and knowing the documents that we instrumented. As soon as I could become a broker, I was to the day a broker, a licensed broker, opened my own company. And again, just really focused on being able to know the contract, protect the clients, inform the clients, keep the clients, a part of the process while handling it for them without the headache.
I love that. And I mean, so often when I talk to agents, I ask why they got into the business and they give me an answer that makes me cringe. They say, oh, I got into it because I wanted flexibility and independence. And I love that you said you wanted to offer clients something better. You wanted to really master the contract. You wanted to really master the transaction, all of those nitty gritty details inside. So few people, I think, get into this because they want to master that side of it. But when you look, especially in today's market, I mean, I know you didn't start today, but all of those contracts are changing, and making sure that you are a master of all the nitty gritty details and how real estate works today with all of the new changing regulations is absolutely huge. Because when you meet with a buyer or a seller and you can't explain it perfectly, that's going to be a huge red flag for an educated consumer.
And I think the unfortunate part of our industry is too many agents do join the industry because they like to look at homes and they enjoy looking at, different remodels. That honestly, I could teach, my 18-year-old daughter how to show a home and how to point out the positives and the negatives. But going in deeper into that legal side of things is the only way to truly protect the client, be able to explain it on that level where you're not speaking to them like they're a licensed agent, you're explaining it. And especially with all of the changes and the lawsuit going on, I think it's massively important that agents are trained to subside fear. And the only way to do so is with facts and data. I think fear causes clients and agents alike to pause. Every time I teach, so I coach and I mentor my agents as part of a benefit on my team. I do have some outside agents that I coach and mentor as well. But one of the things that I encourage in all of my coaching is data, because data will dispel fear. And I think that every time you think of somebody fearful, you see them frozen, right? Like anytime you think of fear, it's they freeze, and that fear pauses people in actions that could be a benefit of them to act. But the only way to get them to understand that is by giving them the data, explaining and informing them of all of the steps of the transaction and why the lawsuit, what did it change? What did it not change? For us in our market, commissions have been under attack really for several years. And we really started to feel it during COVID when every property had 40, 50 offers on it. How in that year did we as a team more than double our prior year? It was strategically through knowing the details of the contract, having the ability to educate a client. Why is a good time to buy right now? What are the benefits? What are the downsides? And then give them that, enough data for them to make an educated choice.
I love that. And we talk about data, and I'm a huge data person. So I subscribe to like every real estate report that I can possibly find in my local market, as well as the national ones. And every single week I arm all of my salespeople with a side-by-side of what's happening in our market versus what's happening nationally, so that we can give that to clients to see what that comparison looks like and to make an educated decision. Because at the end of the day, I think too often we're all, as real estate professionals, telling clients that now is the best time to buy. Because at the end of the day, if the market goes up by 4% per year on average forever, give or take a year, now is always the best time to buy. But we sound like idiots when we're always like, oh, buy now, buy with me, I make a commission off of you. But when we have that same conversation with the data, with the charts, with every single piece of information we can have that's up to the minute, because the internet makes that possible and AI makes it easy to make a graph for it, we are so much more powerful and trustworthy when we go into that situation. And I love your approach of doing that to really dispel fear, because real estate is a freaky product. I've purchased 8 or 9 houses. I have rentals, I have personal houses, second houses, but it's scary every time because the market changes so quickly. And all I want to know, all I really care about is that my agent on each particular sale is the absolute expert with a lot of experience in today's market. And that's for me what matters. So let's back up a second, Tori. So you started 25 years ago. You ended up starting your own brokerage. How long did it take in your career before you felt like it clicked and you were doing like, a reasonable volume of business?
So I started in Tucson, and my marketing was a lot to people I knew, friends and family. And I believed that I had to differentiate that friendship or that family relationship. People already knew by knowing me that I was very detail oriented, that I was kind of the fixer in all situations for friends and family. If they were looking to have something handled and fixed, they would come to me. If they were buying a car, I was their go-to. So they already knew who I was as a person. But when you are asking people to work with you, with their finances being the focal point here, I believe there had to be separation. And that separation came from the very beginning practice of when a lender's getting all of their financial details, I never wanted to know it. I think that the second, part to that is that, again, having that detail-oriented behavior pattern is crucial to this career. If you drop the ball or you miss a deadline in real estate, I always say it's commissionectomy. And that could be at the tune of even more than the commission stands to pay you, right? So it's super important, I believed from the beginning, to keep that separation. But also as I grew the team and grew my knowledge and grew my company, I had to be the one that was constantly diving in. You have to go back to a time where this was not electronic. Our documents, they weren't even carbon copy to begin with. You had to do everything in an office. So again, I dove in and really educated myself, and I would sit with an attorney I had hired and my title company and their attorney to make sure that the verbiage we were drafting was compliant and was going to be able to be held up in that title source. And I would say it was probably 3 years before I felt that I was in a groove and in a healthy groove. But that was 3 years without a mentor. I didn't have somebody that coached me and mentored me. That is the beauty of, I believe, having a coach and a mentor. And I take one of my newest agents, who is a brand new licensee within the past year, which is, again, a difficult market. And I believe if you're licensed under 5 years right now, you really don't know what normal is. You don't know what a normal market looks like. You only know the roller coaster, right? Rates were incredibly low. Just everybody was buying. But even at that time, there were people that stood to say, I'm not going to buy because the market's going to crash. You hear that same thing today. The ones who looked at the data and the facts of the conversations we were having bought. Yes, there was a cost to buying at that time, and that was you were paying over market value. However, within 6 months to 8 months, most of those properties were performing at a positive rate. But one thing that I believe for a new agent, like I was saying, my newest, being under that mentorship and training and leadership, she's done 6 transactions her first 6 months of business. To me, that's a number that most agents would be happy with for the year as they were seasoned, right? But as a new agent, she takes every coaching and mentorship I give her, she does it. She doesn't question why. She knows if she's telling me there's a positive result at the end of it. So I believe that 3 years that it took me to feel in the groove was a lot of it because I didn't have that direct mentorship. Everything I had to learn, I learned by myself. And I would try to surround myself with people that I felt were the best of the best. And every word I'd listen intently. But as a daily or a weekly mentorship, I didn't have that.
How did you find that eventually?
I
Or did you?
found it by educating myself. And as I grew, and then when I moved to the Phoenix market, I had to start all over. I knew one person in that market, and that was somebody that I was marrying. So naturally, if he was buying a house, it was with me. So I had one client, and that was myself. I knew nobody else. So I really had to, again, learn a different market. I'm starting a team up in Wyoming, in Cheyenne. And even starting that right now, the laws are very different. So not having that direct mentorship, what I did was I sought out people that I felt were highly educated. And whether, again, at the time we're talking technology to be so different, right? So now you can pop on a podcast like you have. You can pop on and find coaching and mentoring so many different places. But at the time, that wasn't really a source for us. If you would have told me back 25 years ago, you're going to sell a house through your phone remotely, and a client's never going to physically step in that house when they buy it, I would have thought you were insane. But that's happening. And I've done many of those transactions through the advance of technology. But I still believe that I could have gone so much further, so much quicker if I would have had that direct mentorship. So even still now, what I do is I surround myself in masterminds where the people in the room are somebody I look to and admire, not somebody doing less business than myself.
Love that. I mean, what I'm kind of hearing today is that agents today have no excuses. I mean, like, we have the technology to find who that perfect mentor is for us. We have a bombardment, almost too much education and information out there that's at our fingertips all the time. We have social media, we have AI, we have so many ways to make this work, and you can access information on the market to gain knowledge or the law at your fingertips all the time. So, I mean, if you're an agent today and you're not doing something to grow your knowledge and to surround yourself with great people, you're doing something wrong. Let's fast forward to the present, Tori. So right now, I mean, you guys, your team, we chatted before the call, you guys have 15 agents, only 2 staff members, and collectively you guys did over $100 million in the last year. Where did that business come from? What subspecialties do you guys have? I mean, in any market, that's a big deal. But how did you guys do that? What made it up?
So strategically, one thing that I believe is the coaching and mentoring is specific to the agent, right? And so what we do as a team is I call our team small but mighty because I run a business where I'm teaching them how to brand themselves and what their niche in the market is, how to brand them and then work towards that goal of creating the clientele that they specialize in. On top of it, we do purchase cold leads, but I believe on a team, if you see a cold purchase lead or a warm lead even as the benefit of the team, then you're missing the mark. A team should be a fit under a leader that is wanting to see you grow and achieve your goals. It should never be about, well, I joined a team and the team lead, this is my personal opinion, doesn't operate. They got in and started a team to not, to not be a part of it any longer, to kind of step outside of that role. For me, as I grew the team, I was told many times, Tori, if you are going to grow the team, you can't keep up doing 30 million personally in volume. And I thought, I don't agree with that. I believe that if I can define my schedule and my time and I operate like a business and teach my agents how to treat this as a business, we can scale and grow and I can be very effective. I'm in the trenches with them. I'm doing the things that their challenges are every day. I'm also seeing the same challenges. So we also provide, like I said, a cold lead system. But again, each agent, I teach them how to treat their business as such and how to maximize all of what we would call their pillars of business. And the way I say it is that the more pillars of business that you have, the stronger your foundation is.
Well, number one, I want to go back to the fact that you mentioned leadership in the trenches. So we've operated under that model forever. Our top owners are still in there producing every single day. And really for us, that's been the key to success because they know what's happening in the market and they're feeling any of the pleasure or the pain that everyone else at the entire company is feeling. And so we're able to react and make decisions as a company much better because of that. And people want to be mentored by that and strive to do better. And I think you really lose something as a team leader, especially in this industry or as a broker, when you have been removed for so long. I mean, we've talked to brokers on the show who haven't practiced in 20 years, and the things that they have to say to agents are just very different, right? It's kind of like some of the basics are good, but it's like, well, you haven't done it in a really long time, and we're in a very different market. So I love hearing that. You mentioned that everyone needs to brand themselves individually and have a couple different niches. I know you mentioned that you have a really interesting niche that has really grown organically, but has fed you really well. Talk to us about that.
So my personal niche, I specialize in a market where primarily you're seeing about a 50% second home population. And so for me, when I started in the Phoenix market, the first thing I knew very well was that there's a heavy golf community, a lot of golf community homes and kind of resort style living. And so for me, it was to dive in and educate myself first on and making that spreadsheet. Again, treat yourself and your business as a business, right? So no business would go into something without knowing what they're trying to pitch. You don't sell something without knowing what you're selling. And I think that the best salespeople don't sell. What they do is they educate people. So for me, I had to educate myself on these golf communities, what each one required. Was the membership private? Was there private or public? If it was private, what was the dues? Was it tied to the real estate? Was it mandatory? Those type of things. And so I started in these golf communities, again, with just clients that had reached out through cold lead sources. So at the time, Zillow was a heavy draw. Now Zillow is a different, it's the flex model. It's not, where you can purchase zip codes and such. So I started out with a lot of Zillow leads. Google pay-per-click was a smaller portion of it back then. Zillow was kind of a driver. And these cold leads in communities where people were coming primarily second home. Of course, I specialize as well with my everyday residents, right? And upgrading them into a larger home or getting them down to a smaller home as their families change. Because one thing I believe is that the need for shelter never changes, right? You just have to find what that need is for each individual. But I started out in these communities that held a heavy second home population. And as my personal business now, where I look and I say I produce right around 30 million every year, that for me personally, that has been done so now off organic past client referrals past clients, again, coming in and purchasing and selling their properties. And I do a lot of agent referrals because I've networked with some top agents in other areas. But it just so happened that my niche ended up being in these, communities where second homes were a big deal, and then relocation. So specializing in those properties to where it's a different process when you have somebody who's not here all the time, who's somebody who's only using this home, maybe collectively 4 months a year. And that's not all at one time. And being able to put them in touch with the proper suppliers, vendors that are going to take care of the property for them, cleaners, landscapers. We even have what you would call house husbands.
What is I need to hear more about this. What is a house husband, and do I need one?
Right. So I personally believe that with the ability that I have to put my people in touch with the right vendors, they don't need them. But some of my clientele in some of the luxury communities will hire what they call house husbands. And what they are is somebody who basically handles everything you don't want to do. So they'll organize different vendors to come. They make sure they come and check your mail. They come to the property. They'll change light bulbs. They'll do kind of anything with the property that, like a handyman would do. And they just don't have the desire to have to do it themselves. So they do charge a fee. But again, I always give my clients the option of, if, I have handymen who can do that same stuff. Plus, here's the vendors who would come. If you have a cleaner coming to your home every other week or once a month, and they're flushing toilets and they're doing those things, running sinks, then, do you really need to spend that extra money? So even though they have it, I'm always trying to be thrifty with their money.
I love that. Well, I mean, I think so. There's so many markets across the US right now that are just booming in the second home market, right? I mean, like we're talking Montana, we're talking Jackson Hole, half of Florida, half of California. I mean, there's so many areas that are popular for second homes right now. And so to provide a little bit more confidence and full service experience to those people is such a great way to get more referrals. Because when you probably look at your market, you guys have like what, 30,000 agents in the Phoenix metro area, like some huge amount?
Higher than that, yeah.
Higher than that, 80,000 agents, right? Like just like a bonanza number. Most of those people are selling one to two houses a year, I'm guessing, and they don't have the level of detail and resources ready at a whim to give to these buyers moving here from all these other places. When I'm looking at a second home or vacation home, it's like I'm at dinner with my wife and it sounds like a great idea after the first glass of wine. And then the next day I talk to the realtor and I like start looking at prices and taxes and flood insurance and maybe it's like forest fire insurance in your area. And it starts to seem a lot more stressful, but I'm getting the vibe that you are so successful because when you talk to these people, you let them know before they can even mention all these things they're scared of that you have a solution for it. So it almost like disarms their fear and keeps the intention of buying that second home alive.
And again, that goes back to facts and data, right? When I meet with a client, I'm not meeting with every client. You mentioned earlier saying, well, it's always a great time to buy. I wouldn't agree with that. I think that, yes, I agree that most agents pitch that. You'll hear me say why the good reasons are, but also one of the things you'll hear me say frequently is that's specific to you. Let's sit down and figure out your unique situation. And does it make sense for you to move forward? Does it make sense? And the only way to find that out is to find what their challenge is, what their needs would be, what the outcome that they're looking for, and then to see if we can match that up to the price point and the properties that we've got available. So somebody wanting to purchase a second home, for example, in the North Scottsdale market with a pool, 4,000 square feet, fully upgraded, modern, and if they said to me, well, I want to spend $600,000, quickly I'm going to be able to say to them, that's not going to happen. So now we need to have a real discussion of let's match up what property you're looking for first to a realistic price point. And then let's talk about how you're going to use the property. So maybe that's going to cost you a little bit more, but would it make sense then to do when you're not using the property, rent it out 30 days at a time or rent it out, to a lot of our visitors where they're coming and they're wanting 2 months at a time or 3 months at a time, but giving all the facts of what is potential for what you're looking to do, matching that up for exactly what they're wanting, and then giving them realistic data of this is what you can expect and this is what is not going to happen. And then again, answering that, if all that matches, what would your everyday process look like? How often do you plan to be here? Are you going to need a cleaner to come once a month? Or what are you looking for? And then providing those vendors that are tried and true. And a lot of my vendors, they're getting discounted rates because of the volume I give to them. To be on my vendor list, it's not because you're giving me a kickback. I don't believe in that. To be on my vendor list, you have to have proven yourself to be responsible. You're going to show up on time. Your prices are reasonable, and you're going to take care of those clients the way they're used to being treated by me and by, my agents on the team. And so that experience has to be consistent.
I love that. So just before we wrap things up here, I want to hear about what else you guys are doing. So you have, with the volume of business you're doing, you have a huge amount of past clients. You have different agents in your team who specialize in slightly different niches. What are you guys doing for your past clients? How are you communicating to them and really staying in touch?
I believe past clients are the bloodline to building a business like I've built myself, right? Where I'm performing, again, personally 30 million a year without taking any cold leads. And the way we do that is I believe that your touch, meaning, not physical touch, but your touch back to those clients, you can't just close the deal and then you're out of the picture. You have to stay in contact with them to where when they think real estate, they think Tori Ellens, right? They remember that one, you did an amazing job, but it wasn't about the sale. Like I've told them from the beginning, it's not about the sale, it's about you. So once this is closed, I always tease them and say, you're stuck with me for life, because the follow-up then begins in multiple ways. So one of those is we put them on a detailed and easily attachable, programmable system of giving them their home value. So if they've done upgrades, I can go in and customize that value. If the data was incorrect going in, we can fix it. And then we can give them, if we were to list today price, we can give them what the national, statistics would show on that house, some other systems that would show, and then we give them our recommended value on the home, because not everybody's looking for value because they want to sell. Some people are looking for value as they want to pull out, equity out of that property. So we give them that reaches out monthly. And again, as many systems as you could put once you've began them onto self-service full throttle on its own mode to where you're not having to micromanage and go in. That's one way. The other way is, again, we set them up on a plan, and every email that goes to them from me, it looks custom. It doesn't, hello, Mr. Buyer, or hello, past client, right? It's very customized and it details, but I put that into the system to where it's generating those emails as well. And then once a month, they get a short video from me on just a quick topic that I think is relevant to the market that month. And then in addition, I send out handwritten birthday cards with, usually I'll throw a $10, gift card in there for Starbucks or for Dairy Queen, whatever, depending on the summer months, it's usually Dairy Queen. And then as well, if there's a big life event, whether it's, sometimes we have clients that have deaths, we're going to send a card and a gift, and we have a gifting program as well. But it also strategically, every month, I've got myself and my agents on a system to where, I do social media and I engage with people there, but I also once a month, in order of, okay, this day I'm setting out and I'm doing past clients. This one I'm doing my current sellers. This day I'm doing this. So on a weekly basis, and again, each client, past client and potential client that's working actively is hearing from me consistently. You can only do all of that if you have yourself, again, in a business way. You're treating this as a business. And I believe through coaching and mentoring, I do all of that by dialing in their calendar.
Well, and I love that because when you have things set up in such a way where there's a plan and what you need to work on when you get to the office that day, it turns real estate into a job and not just into the whim of when a client calls me, I help them buy and sell real estate, right? That is the agent that we don't want to be, because they ride the roller coaster. They might get lucky every now and then, but it's not predictable. It's not repeatable. when you come up with a plan for every contact type, and then you set those things in your calendar, the minute you allot time for how much you want to work in real estate that week, you know what you need to work on it. And I absolutely love that. And that is the key to getting to this $100 million mark that your team has achieved. So Tori, if someone has a client wanting to buy a second home or a first home in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I want to just say one other thing.
Yeah, please.
As an agent, if you are being reactive, you are subject to what comes your way. If you're being proactive, you're in control of how things go for your business. And I think that that's something you should, as an agent, put at the
I love that.
How are you behaving in a daily? So if somebody wants to get a hold of me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Tori Ellens, TorieEllens. And my direct number, which again, I'm very personal, is 602-824-2196. And my email is Torie, Torie, at theellensteam.com.
Tori, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.